Those of you who are watching live, thank you so much. Jane, Lisa, Ivana. I'm going to let Robert introduce himself in a minute. But while we're waiting everybody to come in, just to let you know that the way that we're going to structure this today is I'm going to ask some questions and I'm going to open the floor up to all of you to ask some questions as well. We've got a nice list from the people that have already commented on the original thread when I announced this chat, and I'm so happy that Robert has come in and spared some time in his busy day to be able to chat to everybody, just to sort of shed a little bit of light on SuperControl, about what is SuperControl, about why it is so important to have an online booking engine for your property in 2018. But also as well, just to have a chat, because like I've said in original post, is that we see brands like SuperControl, like Hotel Bonanza, that have kindly come into the group, and we didn't know much about them. But by doing these chat, it helps us understand a little bit more. And obviously for Rob, it's a great chance to explain everything about what they're doing. So Sophie, Rosemary, Elizabeth, thank you for joining in. When you do arrive on this live chat, we've got people streaming in all the time. If you could please say hello below, put your comments in. Any questions that you may have, please pop them in the comments and I will try and get to as many as possible. Claire, Shona, thank you so much. So yeah, show us your emojis. Make sure you can hear me. Make sure you can see me. So I'm going to give Robert the chance now to introduce himself and SuperControl. So firstly, Robert, thank you very much for doing this today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks. It's a great opportunity to answer a few questions, hopefully give a bit of information.
So before we start the full chat, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background before SuperControl. What were you doing before all of this? That would be a great place to start.
Well, that's quite a long time ago now. So the story of SuperControl, in a very brief introduction. When my wife, Melinda, and I got married in 1999, we took over running our holiday cottages on our farm here in southwest Scotland, and took them over. My parents had been running them for a good 15 years previous to that. At that time, one of the first things we did was set up a very simple website, very simple thinking back, but if you put up a website in 1998, 1999, as some of you listening may have done, it was an instant success. And around that time, it was the millennium, New Year, year 2000, New Year, and that was a big bonus for tourism generally. And we were getting a lot of inquiries for our properties. They were booked out a long time prior to this. So in order to counter those inquiries, we put a very simple availability calendar onto our new website, just to say we're booked. The success of that website and one or two other little things we did, we were completely self-taught, but as I said earlier, it was very simple back then, led us into doing some websites for other people. We always had a core of self-catering or holiday home clients as part of that group, although we did websites for all sorts of different kinds of businesses. We did that for 5 or 6 years before we decided we wanted to specialize in a product, as it were. So we took our experience as well as some of the things we'd done for some other clients and put that together into the first version of SuperControl. So that was 2005, 2006, 2007, around that time we were launching, and a very simple system to start with, but it's evolved a lot since then. So now we have around about 1,800 clients all over the world, mostly centered here on the UK, predominantly in the holiday home sector, although that covers a lot of various types of accommodation in itself. And we support everything from our office here in the southwest of Scotland, our new office. We moved office yesterday, so I'm sitting in quite an echoey room this morning with nothing in it. And we have a second technical office over in Poland. So that's the story, really. It started out as stuff for our own holiday homes, and now here we are 12, 13 years later, and we have over 40,000 holiday homes using SuperControl.
Wow. And is that worldwide?
It is worldwide. We predominantly focus on the UK and Ireland. It's a market we understand best, and obviously we're based here, but we have properties in 40-something countries all over the world. And as I said earlier, that covers everything from your traditional holiday cottages to boats, castles, yurts, glamping. You know, there's a huge variety, but it's predominantly whole home rentals rather than bed and breakfast or hotel rooms.
We're going to get on to exactly who SuperControl is ideal for later on, but I've just asked a question in the group, who is watching this and uses SuperControl. So we've got Shona, we've got Claire, we've got Alison Rowell. So there's loads of people that are using SuperControl at the moment. And how many did you say you had altogether on?
We've got about 1,800 clients. So some of them are small one property businesses, and some of them are very large rental agencies or property managers. So
amazing
variation.
So 12, 13 years in the business, what would you say has been your biggest lesson that you've taken away from the last 12, 13 years in doing all of this?
So it's been a really interesting time for the industry generally, going from pretty early days of using the internet to people predominantly using the internet. And I know we're going to come on to some of that later on. When we first started, one of the first, as we gained, a couple of hundred clients, one of the key things that people were asking is, can you update my calendars on these websites? The big players back then were things like holiday lettings or the holiday rentals before Oneway rebranded it, and simple methods of updating calendars. So really that whole evolution of channel management and the importance of using those channels has happened during that time that we've been in business. The hotel sector was a bit ahead of the curve at that point, but certainly the home rental sector has caught up very quickly, and that's, as we know, building more and more. So that's one of the biggest things that's changed. That said, a lot of the majority of our clients still get the majority of their bookings direct, especially the more traditional UK-based operators. So things have changed dramatically, and the growth of the big booking channels has been really significant, but it's a fairly traditional market in some sectors, and it hasn't changed as much as perhaps some people might think it has.
So if you were to go back 12, 13 years before you started this, before SuperControl even became a thing, if you could give yourself one bit of advice back then, from where you are now, everything that you've learned before starting all of this, what's the one bit of advice you would like to have been told or given way back then before you started, especially everything that you've learned since then?
Yeah, so hindsight's a wonderful thing. If I could invent a time machine and go back 12, 13 years, there would be many, many things we could change. But really, one of the our key focuses now actually is something which we could have learned back at the start, but it would be impossible to do so. So this is all about trying to, one of the big focuses of our development at the moment is trying to simplify things. So our system has evolved over that period of time, and quite often, well, nearly all of that evolution has come from clients and their requirements at one time or another, and that in some places has resulted in more complexity. So that keeping that really super simple message would have been the thing that I would try and tell myself back then, is it would result in a much slicker system now, and from a technical perspective, it would be much easier to maintain. But of course, we're really, really grateful to all of that, all of our clients and all of that input over those years, because that has helped us build the system that we've had. We could have never specified what we have now 10 years ago. So it is a completely hypothetical thing, but that it does play into what we're really focusing on at the moment from a technical perspective. So that I guess is the lesson that I would take back.
Amazing. So let's move on. There are a lot of rental owners who are in the hospitality community Facebook group who are watching this right now. And what I've discovered recently, there's a lot of them who don't have an online booking engine, who still use an inquiry form. The what is now fast becoming an old school way of going about it. I always say, you've got to, in this modern day and age, you've got to have an online booking engine, just simply because of the way that the world is going. People want things done instantly. So what advice do you have? What advice would you give to anybody who's watching this, who is a rental, who has properties or property, and they're still doing the old, you got to fill in a contact form to get into it? What's the main advice or main feedback you'd give on to somebody who's doing that to get them to change to do the more instant book route?
So it's really the same message we've always had over the years. The consumer wants it, so you have to give it. We used to, when we were doing presentations, ask people, and this is going back a while, when definitely the majority did not have any kind of booking engine, and we would be a room full of people and we'd ask them how many had, and typically we'd get maybe 30-40% had some kind of booking engine of some description, but the rest didn't. And then you'd ask the same question, well, how many people booked travel in the last year online? And every single hand went up, and that was 10 years ago. And the same thing applies more, but tenfold. So really, you've got to think about your customers, how they want to engage with you, and how they want to transact with you. Of course, there's more to it than that, and there's lots of other benefits, and I'm sure we'll talk about them. But really, if you want to engage and reach more guests, then you've got to have an online presence. Yes, in this day and age, the big booking channels are very powerful, and I do come across quite a lot of operators, smaller operators, who say, well, I don't need my own website, I don't need my own direct bookings, because I can rely on big booking websites to deliver that. But I still think it's very important to have your own brand, have your own website, and a route to take those direct bookings, because you're building relationships with your guests, and they will come back, and you can save yourself some commission, and you can transact with them directly. They'll find far more information and help on your own, even very basic website, than they will from a big booking channel. So it's an important route to market, more so now than ever. And even though you can probably survive without using a product like ours, there are many other benefits to that, which I'm sure we'll cover. But really, just think of your customers and what they want, and what you do when you're booking travel. Do you want to fill out a form and wait 24 hours to get a response? It's just not that world anymore.
I think you're 100% right. And the reason, you can spot trends in the market. Like, I've been listed on Airbnb probably since when it first came to the UK. And when it first arrived, the typical route was you find a property, you send an inquiry to the host, and you wait for it to be accepted. And that's the way Airbnb and holiday lettings and all the other big rental sites have been. In the last 18 months, the way that Airbnb are transitioning, they are really pushing the instant book. And, I set up Airbnb listings for a lot of people and for a lot of clients. And when you first list, they pretty much are pushing the instant book route, and because they are giving what their consumers want.
Exactly. Some people sometimes feel, and we do get clients feeling, that they're being pushed into this instant thing, but actually the sites like Airbnb are only doing that because that's where they see the majority of business. You're not to introduce that delay. And there's nothing to be scared of there either. Maybe there's still some perceptions about you want to speak with guests before they book, or you need to make sure that your property is still available for whatever reason. There is nothing to be scared about, and that's where using a system like ours comes in to maintain a central source of truth, as it were, the central calendar, so that you are making sure everything is up to date.
So here's a nice follow-on question. Why SuperControl? What have you done over the last 12, 13 years that stands you out from the rest? It'd be good to find out a little bit more from one of the co-founders about why SuperControl. That'd be great.
So there's lots of things that we could talk about, but we try and distill that down into 3 areas, really. SuperControl helps our clients get more bookings, make more money. It helps our clients save time, and it helps give them control. So we look at each of those 3 very, very briefly. It helps you take more bookings. One of the, I would say, the key reason that people come to SuperControl is because they're wanting a way of taking bookings, either through main channels or from their own website, or both. But that's the focus at the time of coming to SuperControl. We integrate with most of the big booking names, big booking channel names: Booking.com, Airbnb, HomeAway, TripAdvisor, Expedia, etc., as well as a raft of smaller and more maybe regional channels as well, especially strong with our UK channels. So there's a lot of ways that you can take bookings in. Quite quickly, most of our clients realize that piece of getting more bookings, the first sort of thread, is important, but most important is the second one. It's about saving you time. So it's all very well processing bookings from lots of different sources over the internet. You have to do the admin around that, and that's really the powerhouse of SuperControl. And because we've been developed from the ground up as a system for the holiday home sector, we have systems and tools that help that model specifically. So we're helping you process your payments, generate your correspondence, communicate with your guests, with your housekeepers, everything from who's arriving today to automating the key code message to go to a guest that's arriving in 6 weeks' time. So that administrative side is the real power behind SuperControl. So a huge number of tools to help you manage your day-to-day operations. And then the third thread is about giving you control, and that's more about looking to the future more, so helping you understand your data. It's there at your fingertips. Are you up or down on this year compared with last? Where are your guests coming from? When are they booking? There's all those that information is at your fingertips, which helps you make better decisions for the future. So that's really the 3 threads. It helps you take more bookings. It helps you save time, and it gives you back control and helps you plan for the future. That's a very brief overview. SuperControl does thousands of things, but we try and I don't want to go into every piece of it now.
No, it was good, and it's definitely something I'm gonna touch upon next. But a quick question that I have on the back of that is: when you connect to the different channels, is it a one-way or is it a two-way link?
So it depends on the channel, obviously, and what technology or options there are at that end. But we focus as far as we can to make it a two-way connection. So with the bigger channels like Airbnb, we were the first UK channel manager to get two-way connection with Airbnb. Booking.com, fully two-way integration. HomeAway, Expedia, others are so that by two-way we mean that prices and availability in particular are synchronized to the channel, and then when a booking comes in, it appears in your SuperControl account, and and therefore blocks off other channels. So it's a constant cycle.
Thank you for clearing that up. I should have said, yeah, 2 ways when it, one way is when it goes, the availability and your pricing, and 2 ways when the booking comes in as well. Yeah.
It's a very, because we're lucky enough to have a lot of properties, or our clients have a lot of properties, it does give us a good relationship with those big multinational players. And so we're able to, in some cases, help steer their development path, but certainly make sure that we're getting the best deal or best integration for our clients, because the traditional sort of self-catering sector does have peculiar pricing models, arrival departure rules, all those kind of things, which many of the big channels don't necessarily understand, because they've evolved from the world of hotels where it's check in, check out any day, and it's a much more flexible model. So we push for a 2-way integration. We also push, where possible, to have a full content integration. So all of the content of your listing is being managed from within SuperControl too. So Oneway, Airbnb, Expedia is coming that way. Later on this year, that'll be rolled out to Booking.com and the TripAdvisor connection as well. So there's a lot of centralization, trying to keep all of the key data in one place, so you're not having to log into all of these different channels. It becomes, if you're even a small operator with 1 or 2 properties and you're trying to manage availability manually on even 2 or 3 different channels, it already is an invitation for double bookings. And so, you know, we take care of that piece.
So we have a lot of people in the hospitality community that are part of Farmstay, and it's actually Farmstay how I got to get your contact details, because of the relationship. So just discuss the relationship that you have with Farmstay. What's the, you know, how did you get into contact with them?
So as I said earlier on, I mentioned all these big names like Booking.com and with their multi-billion-dollar budgets. Actually, still for our industry, the more traditional and especially rural industry, some of the well-established and niche brands like Farmstay are significant referrers of business, and they punch way above their weight in terms of budgets because they've got excellent brand legacy. So Farmstay in particular, we've had a very long relationship with. We have a full 2-way integration with them, which works in a couple of different ways. So you send prices and availability up to Farmstay, and then bookings flow back directly into SuperControl. Every year I go to the Farmstay conference and meet lots of our customers and lots of new people, and it's a really good organization. Last year it was down in Harrogate, and I really enjoyed the day there. It was really, I really enjoy the Farmstay. Coming from a farming background ourselves, my father was a farmer. We're actually members of Farmstay with our own holiday homes, and so, you know, validate that it does actually generate business, which is impressive. And there are a number of other smaller channels like that, regional ones that do punch above their weight significantly, given the difference in budgets.
And a question that came in actually while we've been live is, you do the 2-way sync with a lot of the channels. Is it a 2-way with Farmstay, or is a 2-way going to be coming into Farmstay, or is it just a 1-way sync at present moment in time?
So Farmstay, you can link in a couple of different ways. So we have a availability feed going both ways, and you can either enter your prices into the Farmstay system, but also Farmstay gives you the ability to link out to your own availability calendars. And that's what the majority of our clients do. So you're blocking availability or synchronizing availability in the Farmstay search, but then when someone comes to book, they're coming as though they're booking directly on your website. But crucially, we track those bookings so that you can attribute directly that the booking has originated on Farmstay.
Great. Thank you for that. So I just want to quickly touch upon something that I really like about SuperControl. For the job that I do, I'm quite fortunate. I get to look at all of the booking engines out there. I get to play around with a lot of them. And one thing that I've loved about SuperControl is the after the booking stage. It's the automation email rules. You know, like you said, it's the chance to, for example, a guest makes a booking today. 2 days later, this email goes out, or 3 days before arrival, this email goes out. Explain to me the reasoning why you brought that feature in, and explain to me any future developments that you've got on this for SuperControl, because I think that's a really key feature that I think so many of us don't do.
Yeah, so we always have had the ability since the very start to create template emails, template letters, should we call them, which can be delivered in different ways, either by email, you can print them out as a Word document, or you can send them by SMS. And actually, way back at the beginning, you were also able to schedule that. So I could write my letter and schedule it to go out 2 days prior to arrival. But that was a bit, there was still quite a lot of manual work involved in that. So a couple of years ago, we put a lot of time into developing our auto letters function. We call it letters because it's not just emails, although predominantly it's used for emails. Yeah. So as you've already said, that there are a lot of triggers and rules in there which define when that piece of correspondence goes out, who it goes to, and if there are particular criteria that determine whether it goes or not. So to give some examples, if it's an email going out to remind someone that they need to make a payment, then you would put a trigger on that to say, only send this email if the balance hasn't been paid yet. And likewise, if the balance is paid, then you put another email in, and that one gets triggered once the money has been recorded, the payment has been recorded in SuperControl. But you can build up layers of rules, which some clients do to great effect. So, for example, you might want to send a different email to guests that are coming from overseas, or different email to guests that are coming with children, or different if it's a large party versus a small party. And you can put all sorts of combinations of filters within there to personalize your correspondence. So what you end up with is a large set of correspondence, which is only delivered at the right time to the right person. So if they haven't brought a dog, then they're not going to get the email that relates to their dog options in your property. There's actually been some small changes just in the last couple of weeks relating to auto emails. A very minor tweak relating to sending based on departure date as opposed to just arrival date. There's some more changes planned in that feature, mostly around different triggers, but also making it clearer as to when and why an email has been applied and sent or not. There's a lot of different triggers that we could add into that. I should also add that more and more clients use the same feature for SMS messages, which is super powerful, especially just prior to arrival, like on arrival day or during the stay, if you want to solicit feedback from your guests or just make sure that they're okay. A text message is a really simple and effective way of doing that. Guests may or may not be checking their emails, but it's difficult for them to ignore a text message. And as we all know, the more you can solicit feedback from a guest while they're in the property, then you can help resolve any issues. The last thing we want to do is hear about them after their stay. We all want our guests to have the best possible experience.
That's great.
So it's a really, as you say, it's a powerful feature.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you facilitate the text? Is it an additional cost, or is that all built in with the price? How does that all work?
So there is a small fee for text messages, which basically we pass on what we get charged for each message. and the more credits you buy, the cheaper they are. But it's pennies to send a text message, and a really, really powerful way of communicating with your guests.
I think that's really powerful, and I've spoken about this in some blogs that I have wrote, and in the past, you've had to always do it manually. I mean, I've done it manually in the past. I have sent a text to guests, especially on the day of arrival, when you're checking on arrival, especially when you're greeting them, because you don't want to be waiting around for ages. And a text is a great way of doing that. To have it automated and to have it done on a rule-based system, again, goes back to the time-saving aspect, because that's one thing that hospitality owners could always do with more of, is time.
Yeah.
But that's a nice feature. I just want to quickly touch upon the actual the user interface, and this is what the customer on the other end, when they're going onto the website, when they're looking at SuperControl. And this is, again, I have the benefit of looking at all the booking engines out there. And one thing that I have noticed, it is harder to use the SuperControl booking engine on a mobile tablet than it is others. Is this something that you've got planned for development to improve over the coming years, or is there a reason why it is laid out as it is at present?
It is, there's good news on that front. And yes, so some of our calendars and the way things are presented, as we've heard already, were built a long time ago, and mobiles in the way that they exist now didn't even exist back then. We have got two excellent user interface front-end developers in our technical team, and their biggest project right at this very moment is the booking process, starting with the actual calendars that embed on your website. So I was over in the office in Poland last week, and we had a big review of where we are on this project. And the user, the visible piece, is actually not far off being ready for testing. There's still some back-end work to connect that into the system, as it were. But we would expect to be testing those in the next month, 2 months maximum. Definitely trying to roll that out for the really busy booking period early in the so January time is still traditionally a pretty peak time. I'm confident that we will have everything online before then. Completely different look and feel, built around every possible. Over in the office in Poland, they have a whole array of different devices that we've bought second, and different types of phones and tablets and things to make sure that we are really testing it across lots of different devices. So it's exciting news that it's been a long time coming, but it is an active project, and so you should start to see some changes coming through during the summer.
Another change, or another thing that people have been talking about, Emma and Karen asked this question: are you planning on adding further payment options? For example, Stripe was a name that's kept being mentioned. Are you planning on expanding that service?
Yeah, so there's another big development project which has been going on basically for the course of this year to sort of revamp our PCI compliant payment environment. And we're just making some changes to make that, to make the PCI compliance of SuperControl much simpler and make it more secure. So that's quite a long-running project, which is focusing on the payment processes we already work with to start with, because those are the ones we need to convert. The first stage of that, which is internal testing phase, is actually could be happening this week, but it's imminent. And there's still quite a lot to do on that, but we should again hope to see changes coming out. Now that will initially focus on the existing payment processors, the 3 core payment processors we use, which are Sage Pay, Secure Trading, and Holiday Rent Payment. We do have relationships with additional payment processors, and there definitely are plans to add different options in there. In fact, I had a meeting a couple of weeks ago here with a UK-based payment processor that it looks like it might be able to offer a really good deal for our clients. So that's something we're actively pursuing. Stripe itself is mentioned a lot because it's cheap. There are also a few limitations around Stripe. So I'm not against linking with it and it is mentioned a lot, but I actually think we could come up with a better deal with the processor that we're talking to. So hopefully over the coming months, we will start to communicate with clients as we sort of build a bit more detail around that relationship. But it's quite exciting. And again, it really helps because we have so many clients with so many properties, you know, it gives us, puts us in a really good position in those negotiations. And we really do try to get the best possible deal for our customers. And I think we've got a really good option there. I'm not going to give away more right now, not because I'm being particularly secretive, but just because we're not at the point where we can really announce anything concrete, but it's coming.
I think that's something as well that we have to, as hospitality owners, understand when it comes to a company like SuperControl making changes. It's not like you can just click your fingers and it happens. It's a lot of the times you've got so many hoops to jump through, especially when it comes to payment routes. But it's good for me to know that, and this is why I really love doing chats like this with yourself and with founders from other companies, that we know that you know that these are what the issues are, these are the things that we'd like to see happening, that you're acknowledging them and you're going, yeah, we're going to work on this, or no, we can't do this, and just to get the reasoning behind it. I think it helps, especially if there's somebody in here who is maybe on the fence about joining SuperControl. I think it's always funny. It comes at certain stages throughout the years that the questions that we have in the group, as in, who should I join? What should I be doing? X, Y, and Z. It always comes in sort of quarterly routine. And this week we seem to have quite a few. And it's been really good to focus on that. One thing that a question has come in, and again, this is not, I don't really understand the process because my family business isn't with SuperControl, but it's around, the question is from Emma. Telephone bookers have to sign up to T's and C's via a link rather than have to do so via an email. If you can, I don't know if that question makes sense. But
yeah, so that's it's an interesting, like everyone else, if we'd been having this call a month ago, we would have been talking constantly about GDPR. So thank goodness we're having it this month. But one of the interesting features that's come out of GDPR, because we now have to focus on letting our guests opt into everything, we build a whole lot of stuff around opting in. One of the pieces which is still hasn't been rolled out yet, but it is absolutely built and being tested by the test team, is if you have a telephone booker, you, as part of that booking process, can send them a link, and that link not only lets them opt into your marketing subscription options, if you have any, and that's by no means compulsory, but most people have something along those lines, and it will also give them an option, or the option, to confirm that they accept your terms and conditions. So it's been for telephone bookings in particular, and telephone bookings that do not go through a card payment process in particular, you've had to communicate your terms and conditions and get acceptance, you know, with emails going back and forward. Now there will be a link which they go to, and that will be then recorded against the booking correctly that they've accepted your terms and conditions. It is only really relevant for people that book and, for example, pay by bank transfer, or maybe in some cases pay on arrival, just so that there's something there for them to actually tick that box. So that is actually with the test team right now. It came as a sort of second phase of the GDPR stuff, but it's there.
Yeah.
So hopefully that explains it to the person that asked the question.
And this could be a slightly technical question. I have sent you to this beforehand because I was looking at the question thinking this does look quite technical, but it's from Mark, not me, another Mark. We need to know the performance of different referring sites to our clients in terms of converting bookings on SuperControl. SuperControl only logs bookings coming in from a client's website, not from sites who refer to their website. Is there any way around that we know of? Can SuperControl provide a tracking code to add to the outbound link that tracks to the original referrer source or anything? Now, this is the technical question that probably 90% of people don't need. Mark is a marketing company working with a farm in Yorkshire who has SuperControl. So this is why the question came in.
Okay, so without getting too technical in my answer, and if Mark wants to communicate directly with me, then or anyone in our support team, we will provide more technical details around this. But there are two parts of answer to that question. The first one, which isn't technical, and actually I would encourage all our clients to do that have their own websites, is to integrate their Google Analytics to the SuperControl booking pages. To explain briefly, the guest transitions from your own website to our secure booking pages to process the booking. We can track that guest, with your Google Analytics, you can track that guest from your website right the way through to the checkout process. So that gives you data in Google Analytics of where that guest first came from and leading to the final payment, the transaction piece. So you know the value of bookings that came from Farmstay, for example, directly in your Google Analytics. So that is something I would encourage all of our clients to do. There's no cost to that. There's a guide in our help center, help.supercontrol.co.uk. All you need to do is send us your Google Analytics codes. And there's actually some interesting developments on that at the moment as well. We've just been testing some new Google stuff to improve that. The second part of that, which is perhaps a bit more specific for clients who are doing some fairly specific online marketing activities, either on social media or campaigns, email campaigns, whatever, you can provide or append a code to links to track where that business has come from. So as a guest comes through into our booking pages, it will directly attribute where that guest has come from. It's a bit more technical to set up and can be done in a couple of different ways. So it's probably a direct conversation we need to have with anyone listening that wants to talk about that kind of thing. But there are ways of tracking much more accurately from campaigns or from third-party sites or direct affiliate links or whatever. So we can do both of those things. But absolutely set up the link with Google Analytics. It gives you so much more information as soon as you start to see the actual conversions coming through.
Before because we're going to look to wrap up, I just want to say thank you very much. Before I'm going to give you a chance to do a proper plug where people can find out more about you, etc. Two little bits of feedback that have come in during the call, and this is from people that are currently members of SuperControl. The first one is, I would love to have an interim offering between the light and the normal system. The light is too light for me, but the normal one has lots of things I would never use. So I think she's basically saying, is there an option to have a light with bolt-ons? That's something she would like.
Right.
I don't know if you've got any feedback on that or anything you're thinking down the line.
So the SuperControl Lite was, as the name suggests, a light version of SuperControl. It contains all of the sort of core functions for taking a booking for your own website, but it's missing a lot of functionality, in particular around channel management. It actually isn't a product we offer for sale anymore. So, but although we are very happy to support the clients who still use that, and occasionally people will still go on to SuperControl Lite, but very rarely. The cost of SuperControl Lite was only ever available for clients with 1 to 3 properties, so it's at the smaller end of scale. The cost of a full SuperControl license, or SuperControl Plus is the product, is only £370 a year. There isn't really a space between the 180 that Lite was and 370 to put any kind of intermediary step. If the client asking the question wants to get in touch with us, there's specific features that they're really interested in, maybe integrating with certain channels, then we'd be very happy to explain how that works and look at it. We've had conversations in the past about having more of a modular approach, and that may come in the future where you just pay for the features you want. But to be honest, the base cost of the license is so affordable, it doesn't leave much room for, and you know, that £370 is including all the links with all the channels, all the features. We do have a level above that designed specifically for property managers or agencies, which has a lot of functionality around paying owners and commission rates. But the majority of SuperControl is contained within that license. So at the moment, we don't plan to have a in-between level on the Lite, but I'd be very happy to talk specifically about the features that the client really wants. So
I think for just £1 a day to have everything, I think, you know, it makes a lot of sense. But Shona has replied back saying she'll be in touch. So that's
brilliant.
Nice.
Well, we'll look forward to hearing from her.
Final bit of feedback, and this is from someone who's been with SuperControl for 6 years now, so nearly 50% of your whole lifespan. And she said that it would be really nice if every couple of years, SuperControl would be able to change your booking engine so it matches the website and not have a charge. So basically, one thing I like about SuperControl is that you match a website's look and feel, so it doesn't feel like the user is actually leaving a website to go to a third party. And I believe that what Emma was saying, that she got quoted a certain price to change, but she's been with them for 6 years, and she thought it'd be nice if, say, every 2 years or every 3 years, that it would be part of the packaging. Because when she, you know, obviously I encourage everybody to update their websites every 18 months at least, you know. So yeah, that was something that she said. So I don't know if you've got something you'd like to.
So I do. It's a process we call design matching, which matches the booking pages of SuperControl to the look and feel of your website as closely as is possible. The reason we charge is because it's a very time-intensive process doing this. We do outsource it, but even then, it takes a lot of time going back and forward to get it right. Some websites are really simple, as you know, but often, especially in this day and age, there's a lot of complex stuff that needs to be done. The plan, and actually it was another focus meeting we had last week in Poland, is to introduce a new way of showing those booking pages. And it's difficult to describe, but it appears like a sort of overlay style pop-up with your website in the background. It isn't a true overlay because there's security implications around that, but the plan is over certainly the next 12 months to try and move away from the style we have now to something which is significantly better, especially across different devices, as we've already spoken. But it will then mean that we don't need to worry about this process every time you change your website to make small tweaks to the design matching. It's quite a big project, but it is one of the focuses for our year to get through that. So there is light at the end of the tunnel on that one. And really, it's really positive. So we've done some work on this over the last few months, and the first impressions look like it's going to be a really, really good experience for the user, whilst retaining I think, I agree with you, the important feature of sort of matching the look and feel of the website, or at least making it feel like it's very connected to your own website. So that is an active project. There's been some work done on it, and through the course of this year, we're really hoping to roll that out. And we'll actually start to see it in some areas before others. So it'll be a slow rollout of different parts of the system. So there's good news there. Not perhaps the news the client was looking for, but it's positive news anyway, because we're going to be looking at a much better interface for the guest.
All sounds really good for SuperControl. New offices, new plans, and I'm going to be at the Farmstay conference in November, as well as yourself. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's been between now and then, which would be great. So before we leave today, I just want to say thank you to everybody. We've had a steady stream of people that have watched all the way from the start. And I think this is a really good part of the call. If you could just, if anybody wants to know more about SuperControl, where do they go? If there's anybody to call, who do they call? Where they can find out more? And yeah, just this is your chance now to say, for me to say thank you, and for you to have a nice big pitch for SuperControl.
Well, I'll keep it short. Thank you, of course, for this brilliant opportunity, and thanks to everyone who has joined. And who will watch this video in the future. If you want to find out more about SuperControl, just go to our website, supercontrol.co.uk, and give us a call or get in touch from the website. You can also sign up for a free trial there if you want to experience the system, and then we'll get in touch with you to help you through that process. For existing clients, I already referred to our help center once. There's a lot of good information in there. It's a publicly available thing, so people, if they want to poke around the functionality of SuperControl, go to help.supercontrol.co.uk, and there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. The article I mentioned earlier on is Google Analytics, so if anyone hasn't done that, they could look at that, but there's a lot of information, and daily we're adding more documentation to that. We also appear at various conferences usually through the autumn time, Farmstay being one of them. So hopefully we might see some of you there, and it'd be good to meet you there in person, Mark. Mm-hmm. If anyone's got any questions, just give us a call, go to our website, get our number, and get in touch. We'd be delighted to help answer some of the questions, especially some of the specific ones that came from today. If I haven't answered them in enough detail during the call, please get in touch. That's what we're there to do. Amazing. So thank you again.
No, thank you. I really, really, really appreciate it. I mean, it's helped me to shed a bit more light on SuperControl, and I'm sure there's many people watching this live, and of course they'll be able to watch the replay at any time in the group, and obviously on the YouTube channel as well. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to end this call now. Robert, if we get disconnected, I'll send a follow-up email just to say thank you. Okay, everybody, have a great day, have a great week, and as always, I'll see you in the group tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.